That was fabulous. Next, we're going to bring on Chris Cox. Chris is head of digital globally for Hershey's. You have a nice little treat in front of you. He's going to provide us a case study that's going to have a lot of food pictures, so you might need to start eating those by the end of the presentation. But you know, Hershey's is known for its iconic brands and Reese's and Almond Joy and Mounds and Hershey Kisses, of course. But today he's going to provide us a case study with one of their key ingredients, cocoa. So please welcome Chris Cox.
Good morning. It's my great pleasure to follow a wonderful, iconic brand like the Coca-Cola Company. Different category in the CPG universe, but it's somebody that we respect quite mightily and we compare ourselves to quite frequently to keep tabs on their leadership and what they're doing. I wanted to thank Nancy and the whole iMedia team as well for extending the invitation for me to come today. I did have the good fortune of going to the inaugural Moms last year in Amelia Island, Florida, and it was fascinating content. And really what got me thinking is, when I think of the Hershey Company's mission statement, which is bringing sweet moments of Hershey happiness to the world every day, that's kind of also a mission statement for Mom. Take out the branded reference, and that's very akin to what a mom does, is bring sweet moments of happiness to her family. So I figure at an iMoms conference, what better topic to talk about than chocolate, cocoa, and baking. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to walk you through a case study that we did for one of our brands, Hershey's Cocoa. We have been making cocoa since we were a company. That goes back to 1894. So there is a Mr. Hershey. His name was Milton Hershey. He originally got started in the candy business in Lancaster, PA, making caramels. He was actually a millionaire back in the 1800s from his caramel business when he discovered milk chocolate at a World's Exposition from a German candy making company. He was so intrigued by taking this luxury that was only available for the wealthy at the time and trying to find a way to mass produce it for normal people every day, everywhere. So he sold everything he had, he went all in the chocolate business, and needless to say, the rest is history. So as you can see, we're going to talk about how we used digital to drive strong business results. Now, I've already been talking for just 2 minutes, and I probably sound really corporate and been keeping our lawyers and our corporate communications and brand people very happy. So as alluded to, let's get to the chocolate love. So what we're about is appetite appeal and how our products can really bring those sweet moments of happiness. Cocoa is more than just an awesome ingredient to put into hot chocolate. It can be used for so many amazing things. You can see cakes, pies, cookies, mousse, more cookies, beverages, and more cakes. And incidentally, the cake in the lower right-hand corner, the perfectly chocolate cake, was supposed to appear on stage with me as a hologram today, but we couldn't come to agreement with the cake's agent, so it's elsewhere today. So a little baking humor there. But seriously, Hershey, PA is about 100 miles west of Philadelphia. It's just outside our state capital of Harrisburg. My office is literally at the corner of Chocolate and Cocoa Avenue. So our nickname is Chocolatetown, USA. So my office is also right across the street on Chocolate Avenue from the factory. So literally when you walk out the door, you smell cocoa all the time. And yes, your mouth waters constantly. We fortunately have a good health and wellness program, so we, like our friends at Coca-Cola, stress moderation and physical activity to stay fit and find the right balance. We don't have street lights. We actually have Kisses street lights, both wrapped and unwrapped, as you can tell. And everywhere you go, our icons are omnipresent. On our billboards, we're a very polite company, too, so even when you leave town, we say, thank you for visiting Hershey, the sweetest place on earth. So we really try to reinforce our iconic brands and how much they mean to us and how much they mean to our founder, Mr. Hershey. Mr. Hershey and his wife, Mr. Hershey was an only child. He and his wife regrettably could not have children. This is back in the early 1900s. They were incapable. In 1909, Mrs. Hershey came up with the idea of starting a school for children in trouble, in particular young boys at the time, orphan boys. She passed away, unfortunately, due to illness a couple of years later. Shortly after that, with no heirs, Mr. Hershey put in his final will that he would bequeath his quite sizable estate to making sure that the Milton Hershey School would stay in perpetuity so that we'll always provide an education, a home, and a viable trade for young men that didn't have any parents. And since then, it has expanded to also be co-ed and helping children in need. So that's some of our part in giving back. But again, about cocoa, we take our cocoa very seriously. In fact, we like it so much that we create bushes to promote Hershey's cocoa. I took this a couple of weeks ago before the bloom had really popped, so it's amazing bright color now. But again, just outside of our factory right in the heart of town, we never lose sight of how important cocoa, a very mature brand for us, again, that goes back to 1894, what a critical driver it is to our engine. So what is cocoa? Well, if you've ever had the good pleasure to travel to equatorial Africa or Central America, you would find the cacao tree. And there's a big bean that comes off of that, the cacao bean. If you crack one of those open, smash up the interior, you get the derivative of this cocoa powder. It's very sweet, it's very flavorful, it's also incredibly high in antioxidants. So yes, there is a health benefit to eating and consuming cocoa. It's been proven to be very beneficial against autoimmune diseases, inflammatory diseases, potentially even heart disease and cancer. So we really stress around the insight of it is a better for you product. And yes, conveniently, when you mix it with milk, cocoa butter, and sugar, it comes out like you have in the nice package on your table today, and milk chocolate. So without any ado, let's talk about what our business situation was. Cocoa, again, is not just about hot chocolate. It's about a crucial ingredient in baking and recipes. And we are all about recipes. Our food and beverage enhancers brand team is responsible for cocoa, Hershey's syrup, and baking chips of all varieties, chocolate, mint, white chocolate, peanut butter. So there's a lot of SKUs in this particular brand. We have a very strong TV culture at Hershey. I was brought in 3 years ago to really try to be a thought leader to enhance our digital capabilities and take them to the next level. So I was working closely with the F&BE brand team, as they're known, and we had a great asset in the Hershey'sKitchens.com website. It's a repository for all of our recipes. It's got almost 300,000 members in it as a community. You can upload your own recipes for submission. You can review and rate the recipes that are on there. And again, it's really all about being very active and sharing, getting great ideas. So what was our business situation? Well, I'm here for a reason. There's always a before and an after and a case study. So in the case of before, for a couple of years, the cocoa category was actually struggling. Sales were, as a category overall, were down. More importantly, our Hershey cocoa sales were below the category growth rate. Again, think of a mature brand going back to 1894, 100 plus years old. You have all that great heritage and that equity, but at the same time, heritage might mean old, and that's what we wanted to combat against. Our market share was declining. The competitive landscape was also changing significantly. In particular, in 08, 09, when the economic downturn occurred, we saw a considerable growth in private label. So this was concerned. We didn't want cocoa to get commoditized when consumers were trading down on price. We said, all right, we kind of defined cocoa in this country. How can we defend our turf? So just like all good marketers, manufacturers, we needed to come up with a business strategy. And our strategy was pretty simple. We wanted to walk that fine line of leveraging and celebrating our iconicness and all that great heritage, but at the same time, our insights, and we spent a lot of time in consumer research, and what we learned there was that young moms in particular, and our bullseye here was female head of household, 18 to 49, but young moms just weren't aware of cocoa and all the things you could do with it. So we said, all right, what better way to be in with those new moms? We need a shot of brand relevance to this new generation of moms. We don't want to be your mom's or your grandmom's cocoa brand. So we came up with a two-pronged plan of attack. We wanted a heritage marketing lever, which was to introduce or reintroduce some vintage-style packaging. When you go to the cocoa aisle, there's a great brand billboard effect between our regular cocoa and our special dark cocoa, but we wanted to mix it up. We thought, based on the research that we saw, consumers might be tired of seeing the same old packaging. So we brought in some cool retro packaging. Everything that's old is new again. So we went back to the old school and brought back this great vintage packaging. And then more importantly, again, to reach that younger, more progressive mom, what better way to do it than using digital activation? And in particular, one of my mantras when I brought to Hershey Company was ecosystem-based thinking, is don't just go with one lever or silo in this tactic. Make sure we're using all the digital channels, tools, and efforts available to us to really maximize our digital footprint. So we came up with a multi-channel campaign called the Hershey's Cocoa Iconic Recipe Promotion. This was created and launched in February of 11, and what it was all about was basically celebrating the history of cocoa and all the great things it's been used in over time. In particular, we had 15 iconic recipes that we put on our owned website. Consumers then had the ability to enter the promotion by voting and saying what was their favorite. So yeah, a little bit of a popularity contest, but not just a straight sweepstakes. We wanted to make sure we were getting that consumer engagement and hearing the voice of the consumer. We also put out over 1 million cans in the retro packaging on shelf, so there was kind of a limited edition, short-time feel to it. In addition to the digital efforts, we used some long lead PR and traditional POS tactics to make sure that we were there at the moment of truth at the shelf, as well as seeding beforehand. We reached out to 2,000 influencers, both traditional media and also bloggers, in particular mom bloggers, recipe blogs, and really trying to activate that passion point of baking with chocolate. And we gave away Hershey goodie baskets, basically as part of the prizes. You got product, you got cooking utensils and other great things. But the grand prize was very simple. This brand, again, syrup, cocoa, and baking chips, they decided to activate the syrup brand via television. So their budget was a little tight. It was a very modest budget. And we said, okay, we'll find a way to make it work. And the grand prize here was quite simple. You know, leverage that passion and enthusiasm of these baking aficionados. Let's bring them up to Hershey, give them a day in our test kitchens, bake with our expert bakers, and just kind of live the dream of making chocolate in Chocolatetown, USA. So to that end, we created a multi-channel program. As you can see, we pretty much leverage every channel in the owned, earned, shared, and paid. Our website was redesigned and reskinned for the promotion. We created a brand new Facebook page for the kitchen's brand team, and then we activated through paid media levers such as banner ads and sponsored recipes. The redesign of HersheyKitchens.com was the first critical asset. In the past, what the Hershey Company had done was put promotions out on microsites. And microsites can kind of be like rabbits. If you start making too many of them, they multiply and they get out of hand, it gets unruly. So what we did is we made sure we brought our promotion onto our most heavily trafficked and content-laden site, which was Hershey's Kitchens. Over 5 million annual unique visitors per year, over 600 recipes there that featured cocoa, and we played to those percentages. As you can see, some of the objectives of the redesign were pretty simple. The one I liked the most was own chocolate dessert recipes on the web. We wanted to be the authoritative resource to go to for chocolate baking. We did classic research. We did A&B concept testing. We went out to Kansas City, Missouri, and did some extensive testing of baking and non-baking consumers. And what you can see the before was kind of that site could basically be any brand in recipes or baking. What we wanted to make sure was we were really leveraging our cocoa and chocolate heritage to dominate that chocolate baking category. And we also were able to reskin it on the fly very quickly in a very user-centered, easy to navigate design for the promotion. Quite simply, vote and win. How did we do? Really strong. In particular, site visits went up markedly, page views went up, recipe views, and mobile views. Again, when you think about what was the objective in the brief was reaching new moms. Again, the insights and the research showed us that one of the best ways to do that was with smartphone penetration being so high against this demo, we wanted to make sure that we were as optimized as possible for mobile devices. So when we saw mobile views go up 40% in the first year after the redesign, we were pretty pumped. Time on site was up, great promotion metrics as well, very happy with the engagement level on the site. In particular, if you jump down to the graph here at the bottom, 138% in the first month of promotion on the Hershey's Cocoa brand product detail page. So not only were they going to get the recipes, they were going over to the product detail page to get all the nutritional information, the ingredient information, and really learn more about what you could do with Hershey's Cocoa. And then it jumped up even better. And the reason we ran this promotion this time of year, as you can imagine in the fall, baking's through the roof for the holidays, Thanksgiving and the winter holidays. We drop off a little in January, but come back with a vengeance in the dog days of winter in February and March, especially for Valentine's Day occasions and Easter occasions as well. We used paid digital media as a lever as well. We wanted to make sure that we were driving to our strong content both in the owned and earned shared sides, and we did an integration and banner campaign with Taste of Home. What was great is we ran banners there, but we were also able to integrate into the recipes on the site, and instead of using generic ingredients, all of the ingredients were branded Hershey's, either cocoa or baking chips, things of that nature. So we're very, very happy with that. We had estimates in the multi-million range for our impressions. We actually exceeded those impression estimates by 450%. Quite fantastically happy with that. Right before the promotion went live, we made sure that we were strong in the social channel as well, so we launched a Facebook page for the brand. Hershey's has over 20 brands on Facebook right now, and an aggregate of about 18 million fans, with the Reese brand, the peanut butter cup brand, having over 9 million right now. So we knew that growth would occur. This is modest growth, but we were very happy, again, to get that footprint out there. What we see is that this isn't by far any one of our largest brand pages on Facebook, but it is a highly engaged audience. So the fans that are there are very active in commenting, liking, posting, things of that nature. And then with all that PR and the other activity out there, we were able to get a lot of discussion going on in the social space, both on Twitter and Facebook, from both bloggers and consumers alike. We can see Angie from Angie's Pantry was talking about the great recipe on the back of the box. Chocoholic's Delight was talking about the deliciousness of the bundt cake, and the bundt cake is great. You got to try it. And we're also getting consumers getting on there talking about making cocoa and then how cool the packaging was. So we're very happy with the response that we saw in the blogosphere and in the social space. So how did we do? This is where the rubber meets the road. In a word, awesome. The baking category and household penetration went up markedly. Again, this is a very modest spend, about a 10-week program, but the results we saw were staggering. This next number just floors me and made the brand manager my new BFF, because in the promotional period, the couple months, year-to-date sales were up well over 30, almost 40%. They took that wave and basically rode it for the rest of the year. For fiscal 2011, sales of cocoa were up well over 15%. Again, this is a 116-year-old brand that was experiencing double-digit sales increases like that. This was the only lever that we were using. There was no TV, no other paid media, only digital. So attribution was real easy. But I think, gosh, when I'm 117 or 118 years old, if I'm still around, if I can do something 15 to 20% better than the year before, I'll be pretty pumped. So we were outrageously happy with these results. Cocoa share growth exceeded the category growth rate. Household penetration of cocoa went up nearly 10%, and the year-to-date velocity increased 15%. So what these stats mean is people were buying cocoa more frequently, and they were going through it faster. So that pantry turn, it wasn't sitting in their pantry or in their closet for long periods of time like maybe it had been previously. They were using it, they were using the site, they were getting these ideas, and they were basically creating their own traditions for their own families, and in particular strong use against young moms. So we were completely happy with those results that we hit that bullseye target audience. To boot, our leading competitor sales, distribution, and household penetration went down, giving us that continued leadership position and creating separation in the category. And the iconic recipe Sweepstakes drove over 34 million media impressions. Again, 10-week effort, a very modest budget that basically returned over a 10x return on investment to the program, which was absolutely unheard of for any of our programs. So where are we going with it today? We continue to grow our social footprint. The Facebook page for Kitchens, we just adapted it to the new Facebook timeline like we did with all of our brand pages. Again, only 25 or 26,000 fans there, not the multi-millions that we have for our Hershey milk chocolate franchise or Kisses or Reese's peanut butter cups, but again, a very loyal, very active, engaged fan base. We also, shortly after the promotion in 2011, launched a YouTube channel for Kitchens. Again, the insights that we saw from research was that video and kind of snackable video content was very important to this audience, as well as their usage of that on their mobile devices. So we made sure that, again, we continue to optimize our mobile versions of the site and put these video assets out there. We created numerous videos on baking, from very simple techniques and tactics to more involved recipes. The woman you see in the video is Linda Stahl. She is our expert baker and the head of the Hershey's Kitchens, where we test and bake and try everything under the sun. I'd say she's got one of the coolest jobs in town, without doubt. And in fact, To that end, our winner, Helene DiBiase of Philadelphia, got to come up to Hershey for the day to bake the old-fashioned chocolate cake recipe, which was the winner by a landslide. She got to bake with Linda, spent the day in Hershey, got to go to the park, go to the chocolate spa at the Hotel Hershey. Yes, we give chocolate massages up there. It's off the charts. But really kind of came in, lived the chocolate dream as a passionate baker. She was absolutely ecstatic and got out on her own social media activity and talked about how wonderful her experience was with Hershey's and baking with our cocoa. So that's kind of in a nutshell our iconic cocoa recipe and how we use digital activation to really drive a very mature and iconic brand to double-digit sales increases for the year. Thank you very much for having me.
Chris, we have a question.
Hi, George Potts with Smith Brothers. Oh, I can stand up, thank you. In marketing to moms, we know that one of the biggest influences on mom is the child themselves. For your confections business and for the chocolate syrup business, do you market to children digitally? And if so, how are you staying compliant with COPA and honoring the CARU advisory recommendations?
Yes, great question. We actually do not market directly to children. We are part of a coalition of advertisers that have committed contractually to not market directly to children. So all of our marketing efforts on any medium are always directed to female head of household, or to head of household, excuse me, or adults 18 and older. We do a CARU self-assessment every year. One of the members of my team, that is one of her strategic objectives every year. So we take that side of compliance very seriously. With the age-old dedication and heritage that we have, we do come out consistently as one of America's most, and the world's most trusted brands. So we take that responsibility very seriously and make sure that we're compliant at every step of the way. When you look at a lot of our websites, we get pressure from brand managers like, hey, it would be really cool if we could create a custom video game, something like that. You know, they look at other leaders in the CPG space, like Campbell's Soup Company puts great video games, custom games on their site. That's something we won't do as part of our commitment to not marketing to children. Mm-hmm.
Hi, Chris. It's Jonathan Blank. I'm a social media manager with Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, and I think I'm following in line with every speaker has gotten a question about analytics and ROI, and so I wanted to make sure we're continuing in that trend. What I wanted to ask is, when you are looking at especially some digital channels that are just starting for you, like your Facebook page, your YouTube channel, how do you set interim goals and baselines, given that you don't have a history that you may have in other channels?
Yeah, that's a great question. What we do is we try to benchmark against the category and other competitors or leaders in the category or similar categories. We work very closely with our agencies, both our social agencies or our lead digital agency. So we make sure that we're putting out there a reasonable approximation of what we think a strong benchmark should be and what the campaign or particular channel performance should be. Because you're absolutely right. We can go to a brand manager who maybe is not as digitally savvy as they are about TV metrics and say, hey, you know, we got X million number of impressions, or we got, you know, X thousands of fans. And literally the reaction without those benchmarks would be like, is that good? Or what do I do with this? So that's what we really take on the digital team, our efforts as educators, quite seriously. You know, we put that hat on, maybe the hat for ideation and thought leader, the hat for project executor and turnkey facilitator, but then on the analytics side as well, to be an educator and say, okay, here's all the reporting that we've done and the important KPIs and metrics you should be focusing on. And oh, by the way, here they are for CPG industry as a whole, in the confection category, you know, right on down the line in order to give that baseline and say, really, how did we do? So, but great question. As an organization, we are incredibly committed to analytical review. So that's very near and dear to our hearts.
Okay, so we'll say thank you so much,
Thank you.
Chris.